Good morning, Eric.
Come on.
Oh, let's see. Try speaking again because I couldn't hear you just then.
Into order at 9:03. And Sam, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Chester, Cindy Lignar.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Clinton, Michelle Bienvenia. I don't see Michelle, so she's not here yet. Cromwell, Anthony Salvatore.
Here.
Deep River, Carol Doak Jones.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Durham, Brendan Ray.
Here.
Welcome. East Haddam, Irene Haynes is not here yet, but just in time we have East Hampton and David Cox. So welcome, David. Essex, I don't see Norm or Carrie Duquez from Essex. Haddam, Bob McGarry, I think he's expected, but I don't think he's on yet. For Killingworth, Eric Couture, I did not add the extra R. Welcome.
You did add the extra R.
Okay, I'm trying not to, but we will talk about this. Lime, David Lom, I don't see him yet. Middlefield, we have Selectman Jim Irish, welcome.
Good morning.
Middletown, Mayor Ben Florsheim, welcome.
Good morning.
Old Lyme, Martha Shoemaker, is she online yet? I do not see Martha. Old Saybrook, Carl Fortuna. He is here. We do have a new first selectman as of this month from Portland. His name is Michael Pelton. I do not see him, but we will be reaching out to him and welcoming him to RiverCOG. And then last but not least, Westbrook and John Hall.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right, and for the MPO, Joe Comerford, is he on?
He'll likely not be in attendance.
Yeah, so Brendan will give the ETD report. And then also from the MPO, Darlene Briggs from Middlesex Chamber. Is Darlene joining us? I do not see her. All right, I'm going to introduce RiverCOG staff, and then we'll introduce our guests. I'm Sam Gold. We are joined by Eliza Lopresti, Megan Juflis, Rob Harrimet, Margot Burns, Brendan Garrity, Kevin Armstrong, Janice Erlenmeyer, Marcos Gonzalez, Susie Beckman, and I think that's it for RiverCOG staff. And then for guests, on the call we have, I'll just going based on my screen, Lori McElwee, our regional mobility manager from the Kennedy Collective. We have Jennifer Brady from the Federal Highway Administration, Connecticut office. We have Christina Mendoza from the Federal Transit Administration. We have Aaron McBride from Senator Murphy's office. We have Nicole Velarde from Demis. We also have Julia McGrath from Representative Courtney's office, Grayson Wright from Connecticut DOT. Also, I do see that Darlene Briggs has joined us, and so has Bob McGarry from Haddam. And then under also attendees, we also have Joel Severance, who runs a number of programs in our region. So I think that's everyone, but if I missed anyone, please introduce yourself just in case. All right, Mr. Chair,
Anybody missed?
I think we're good.
Okay, moving along. We need to make an adjustment to the agenda. I would like to move item 5D up to 5A. Can I get a motion as Jennifer Brady from the Federal Highway Administration is with us here this morning?
So
I'll make the motion.
You got that? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, Sam, public speaking. Do we have anyone from Senator Blumenthal's office?
I don't see anyone from Senator Blumenthal's office, but I see Aaron McBride from Senator Murphy's office.
Aaron, would you like to say anything?
Oh, you're still muted, Aaron.
Okay, can people hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, great.
So good morning, everyone. Just a few quick updates. Senator Murphy and the Connecticut delegation recently announced $220 million to states in New England, Alaska, and Hawaii to help small and medium-sized farmers receive agricultural relief or aid for losses they experienced in 2023 and 2024. So we sent out emails to all of our different farmers across the state to apply and report their losses to the Farm Recovery and Support Block Grant. So that's just an update in terms of, I'm sure everyone was pretty aware of some of the devastating losses that farmers across Connecticut experienced the past few years related to climate issues. And then earlier this month, the Social Security Fairness Act was signed into law, and Senator Murphy was a co-sponsor of this legislation. So he was very excited to see this legislation pass, where retired teachers, firefighters, postal workers, police officers, and other public servants will now have access to their Social Security benefits. And then just regarding stuff like appropriations, as many of you know, in December, they passed a continuing resolution that would just keep the government funded until March. So we'll have a better sense of where some of those projects stand in March when they figure out the rest of the fiscal year budget. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I know that there's a lot of uncertainty around that stuff and it's stressful. And then just finally, as we had to do administration to get sworn in on Monday, there was a lot of executive orders that were fired off from that. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. We're here to help and, listen to your concerns as much as we can. And just know that the Connecticut delegation is going to, continue to work really hard on behalf of all of your towns and constituents. So we're always here to help and answer any questions. I know that there's, a lot of uncertainty. So happy to help however we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I just want to ask Aaron if you could stick around for when we're speaking with Federal Highway. I will have a few questions. I know that they probably don't have much in the way of answers because everything is so recent, but there's questions about funding and freezes to payments and where programs lie. So, but I think we'll be these things will be come out over the weeks. But thank you, Aaron.
Okay. Anyone from Representative Courtney's office?
Yeah, I saw Julia.
Good morning.
Morning, Julia. Do you have anything?
Yes, Aaron did cover quite a bit. So again, we started the 119th Congress. Representative Courtney is again serving on the House Armed Services Committee and as the ranking member on the Sea Power and Projection Forces Committee or Subcommittee, as well as the Education and Workforce Committee. In addition to that, I think you guys might be interested in Representative Courtney and Representative Lalota reintroducing the Long Island Sound Restoration and Stewardship Reauthorization Act that did pass the House last time, but ran the clock out in the Senate. So we're going to try to get it across the finish line. That would reauthorize that line or that funding through 2029. And then just to tack on what Aaron said about the executive orders, and Sam, as you also said, there's a lot of stuff that we are going to have to wait to see how, the dominoes fall. But one thing I will say is there is indication from some of the executive orders that came out on Monday night that certain lines of funding, Sam, like you said, will be either frozen or rescinded. We are combing through those orders as we speak, and we're going to be sharing more information pretty imminently. But there are some grants in the RiverCOG region that we do anticipate will be impacted if things play out as written. So I will definitely be in contact on that. And, like Aaron said, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. I think that will be it for today.
Thank you, Julia. Any questions? Okay.
We have Lori McElwee from the Kennedy Collective. I think she wants to speak under public speaking.
Thank you. Recently, as recent as last week, Brendan and I had the opportunity to speak at Luther Ridge in Middletown. the residents, the senior residents and individuals with disabilities had a lot of questions. They knew our programs, but they didn't know some of the newer programs that River Valley Transit is putting forth. So it's good to keep them in the loop. If you have someone in your town, an organization, a social services or nonprofit, or that has to do with seniors, veterans, or individuals with disabilities, please reach out to us. I have a very good relationship with River Valley Transit. We work well together. We're not in competition. So we try to include each other in our plans and what we're doing. This week, I'm going to Aging Well Expo. It's on January 24th. I know it well because it's my birthday. So I will be spending my birthday talking about transportation, but I do know it well. I know what exists, and I'd love to hear your ideas for your town of what you need if there's seniors that are having transportation needs for dialysis or cancer rides. Those are big ones, and we can't always meet them. Transportation's not 100%, but it's not for lack of going for grants and me going with contacts and my church for offerings and social justice type of funds. So sometimes I can help those needs as well. So we're here to complement your transportation services, certainly not compete. So thank you for keeping us all in mind.
And Lori, a happy early birthday to you, and
Thank you.
please put your contact info in the chat for all the CEOs, just so they can write it down again to
I
reach.
appreciate it. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Any questions for Lori? Okay, anyone else, Sam?
I just want to acknowledge First Selectman Michael Pelton from Portland and welcome him to RiverCOG. And thank you for attending today. And although our condolences on how you became First Selectman.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
And I look forward to meeting with you and explaining to you about the new organization you're on the board of.
I would love to. It's been a whopping 11 days so far, so I've got it all under control.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
And I concur with our director. Welcome. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any one of the council members. We're all here to assist each other, and it's a great group, and our staff does a phenomenal job. So again, if you have any questions, please call Sam or any one of the councils to give you a hand if you need it.
100%. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. And okay, Sam, no other public speakers? Okay, regional housing needs, Megan?
Thank you. Let me just get my presentation up. All right, is everyone seeing my slides?
Yes.
Yeah, you're up.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you the methodology that your Regional Housing Committee put together over the last year to assess our housing needs. It's a lot of information, but please bear with me, and I promise I will try to make it as painless as possible. So first and foremost, the Regional Housing Committee has spent the last year working together on a regional housing needs assessment methodology. Why would we do this? Well, we know there's been a lot of talk around housing policy lately, particularly at the state level, and in the wake of the Fair Share study, it makes this work quite timely. But I also think it's important to point out that this housing needs assessment is something that we identified as a need when we were working on the regional housing plan back in 2021. And we felt it was important to move forward with this effort, regardless of anything else that was going on, so that we have a methodology that was created with our town's input and that reflects the region's goals and priorities, both for our planning efforts at RiverCOG and for reference when we're engaging with the state or with others on this topic. So a little background of how we got to this point. Our regional housing plan created a baseline assessment of the region using 2020 census data, and it examined the housing supply, the demographic trends, and the economic conditions. And all of these things we found impact each other and also impact housing. And we found that all three of these things have been in a stagnant to declining trend over the last several years. We found in particular that the region's population is aging and declining. We're losing and not replacing our young people. Our 1% population loss for the region between 2010 and 2020 reflected an 18% loss in persons under the age of 18. In addition to that, our new housing construction had been limited, about 63% built prior to 1980, and the current stock skews toward older, larger single-family units, which make up 71% of the supply. And these are typically on larger lots with limited rental and multifamily options. Only 26% of our units are rentals, 81% of those are in Middletown. Job growth in the region, as with the state, has been slow, and businesses have been struggling to attract and retain workers. And the cost of housing with the maintenance and the commute isn't affordable or really long-term feasible to a significant portion of the population, particularly those who work or would otherwise work in the region. So we concluded that the housing stock that we have is unlikely to attract or retain the younger population that the region needs in order to fuel job growth and creation. And in turn, that a slow or stagnant job market is going to cause more residents to leave and fewer to arrive. And in general, it's important for the region to increase its supply of smaller, modern, and more affordable units that we strategically deploy in a way that mitigates or reverses these demographic and population loss trends. But how much housing? That's the million-dollar question. So we understand that private developers will be primarily responsible for creating additional housing, and the market is generally going to control what actually gets built on the ground. So knowing this and recognizing this, as part of the regional housing plan, Goldman and York performed a market analysis for us, and they analyzed the historic development trends in the region during both periods of high and low growth in order to understand how much housing the region could realistically expect to absorb. The analysis concluded that 200 units per year over 10 years, or 2,000 units total, was the absorption rate for a status quo estimate in a low growth period, which we're in. The focus at that point was to strategically plan for these units in a way that generates more interest in the region over time. While this is a useful starting point, there were limitations to the estimate and to the utility of our regional housing plan. So the regional housing plan analyzed demographics, jobs, and housing supply in the baseline assessment. And this is really useful. We have to understand this. It also established a target number of units for the next 10 years based on market absorption, which is also helpful to know. We don't want to overbuild. But what it didn't do is it didn't sufficiently connect those two pieces together. How does the baseline assessment relate to the target number of units? And this was originally supposed to be part of the housing plan process, but it was going to take a lot more time and more resources than we had then. So that said, we recognized at the time the need to better understand what this connection is and the unit distribution across our municipalities to help us plan at the regional and town level. And why does that matter? Because even though markets are going to control the construction and the redevelopment of units, towns, as we know, control the land use decisions in planning and zoning. And there are levers that towns can pull in order to incentivize development. For example, planning for different housing types in the POCDs, zoning that land appropriately to make those envisioned types of housing units easier to build, and then even in some cases, marketing the opportunity, letting developers know that the town is open for business. And these can all facilitate development, but the choices of the levers to pull, the choices that towns are going to make in order to do this is going to look different if they need 15 units, or if they need 50 units, or if they need 150 units. And we need to understand what this magnitude is in order to right-size the strategies. So this brings us to the main event, the draft Regional Housing Needs Assessment Methodology for RiverCOG. So Regional Housing Needs Assessment, or as we call it, RHNA, R-H-N-A, is a method of using data, like our baseline assessment, to calculate the gap in the current and future supply and demand for housing units at the regional level. And once it's complete, it can be used as a planning tool by municipalities and by housing practitioners in order to help us plan for and achieve a healthier housing market. So we began this process with the Regional Housing Committee in January 2024. We started with a best practices analysis. We did a lot of reading, scholarly and professional publications on how housing assessments work. We looked at case studies from across the country, specifically California, Oregon, Washington, and New Hampshire, who have been at this for a while. And we also looked at the existing housing analyses that have been done in Connecticut. We held 3 workshops where we analyzed case studies, we discussed and debated which inputs should be included in our methodology, and we reviewed and selected our source data. We then wrapped up with 1 working group meeting at the end of the process that was facilitated by Dr. Don Poland of Goman and York. He was part of our original regional housing plan consultant team, and he helped us put all the components together and fine-tune the model. So our goal when we started was to finish the process by December, which we did barely. But at the December Regional Housing Committee meeting, the final methodology was presented to the group and resulted in their recommendation that we present to the board for your endorsement. So there's not one way to do a methodology for housing needs assessment, but there are common steps to the process, and this was true across all of our case studies. The first step is determination of need, or how many housing units we need to meet the current and future demand. The second step is allocation of units, so which municipalities should be planning for these units, or who gets them. And then the third is local accommodation, or how municipalities plan for these units. And this last step is not part of the RHNA methodology because it is a municipal process. So I'll break up the methodology that we landed on into the first 2 categories as I explain. The first step is determination, which, as I said, calculates the number of units that are needed in the region. Based on the case study review and feedback from the workshops and lots of debate, we landed on 4 input categories to determine housing needs, and these are all sourced from census data. The first is population, and that's the number of people we currently have in the region per the latest census, plus the number of people we expect to have in the future. The second is household size, for the number of people expected to live in each unit, because we don't plan for 1 house per person, we plan for a house per household. So we set up the methodology also to allow for different numbers for current household size and future household size based on the projected shrinking household size. The third input is existing units, or the number of units we already have for those households. And then the fourth is vacancy rate. So this is that healthy slack in the market that provides mobility, because a 1-to-1 ratio of households to housing units is just too tight, and it's going to drive up prices in the housing market. So this is what it looks like when we modeled it. We have current population over current household size plus the population growth over projected household size, less the existing units, plus the vacancy rate. And in order to test the methodology, we plugged in numbers from the 2020 census, which we used in our regional housing plan, because we wanted to make sure we weren't getting wacky numbers spitting out. We needed to make sure the formula made sense. So some things to note. First, we don't have an agreed upon population projection for the state. So we opted to test this model using a 1% population growth model. And this is because even though we are not currently growing, we don't want to plan for population loss, because that's going to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. So instead, we plan for a small but reasonable amount of growth consistent with the goals and objectives of the regional housing plan, understanding that if that growth doesn't occur, in all likelihood, those units aren't going to get built based on the market. The second thing to note is that the test model carried forward the existing vacancy rate of 5.5%, which is within a healthy range. So we just applied that to the future units. So what we ended up with when we plugged all of this in, interestingly, is 2,222 units over 10 years, which is remarkably similar to the 2,000 units over 10 years that we came up with in the market analysis. So we were fairly confident at this point that we weren't getting weird numbers, and this generally made sense. The second step in the process is allocation, where we figure out which municipalities should plan for what number of units. And we relied really heavily on the goals and objectives in the regional housing plan to come up with these inputs. So the first input is population. Originally, this was proportional share of population growth, but again, we don't have an agreed upon population projection. And what we are seeing is that many of our municipalities are looking at population decline, and that would result in a negative allocation. And that's really counter to our goals and what we're aiming for based on the regional housing plan. So we changed this instead to existing share of population per the latest census. So that right sizes the share of future growth. This is an equalizer, as it recognizes that every municipality needs some housing, usually based on household formation or shrinking households. And we weighted population at 50% of total allocation. The second is jobs, and this is because a large focus of our plan of conservation and development, also our SEDS and our regional housing plan, was the synergy between housing and jobs. So we proposed creating housing near jobs to provide opportunities for employees to live near where they work, as well as to allow employers to attract employees. Our Regional Economic Development Committee has actually expressed substantial challenges in getting and keeping employees because housing cost, housing type, or commuting distance makes it difficult. In order to measure jobs, we used loads data, which is from the census. It's what we used in the SEDS. In order to determine each municipality's regional share of total jobs as a percentage, and we applied that percentage to the allocation. And jobs was weighted at 40% of total. And then the last input was transit. And admittedly, our region doesn't have a robust transit system. There's no rapid transit. However, we do have 3 underutilized Shoreline East stations and also a large bus passenger terminal in Middletown, which we are currently planning transit-oriented development around for all 4 of those through our Thriving Communities program. So we added an allocation for transit, but only weighted it 10% because the number of municipalities it would apply to is so small. And I should note that with the weighting, we found putting too much emphasis on jobs or transit put too much burden on the same handful of municipalities and giving nothing to others. So this balance seemed to produce a result that, when mapped, matched most closely with the vision map that was in our regional plan of conservation and development. I also have equity up on the slide. Equity is an adjustment. It's not an allocation factor, so it doesn't impact the total number of units. It only impacts the breakdown of the units. So we've talked about breaking out allocation by area median income categories of 120, 80, 50, and 30%. And we would compare the regional breakdown in these categories to the municipal breakdown using CHAS data, which is basically bespoke HUD census data. And towns that are currently high in any category would receive a lower share in that category, and towns that are low in a category would receive a higher share. And this would result in greater opportunity and distribution of income type across the region, but not something so dramatic that it would result in any sort of forced relocation. So again, this adjusts the breakdown within the allocation, but doesn't change the number. And this is what that looks like modeled, which is much simpler than that long-winded explanation. So you have your future need, which is basically that determination number, split out by population, transit, and jobs, and then within that number, adjusted by AMI category. And when we plug that in with the 2020 data using the 2,222 units, which you can see at the bottom over here, this is what it looks like. And I don't want to, I feel like this is when everybody wants to lean in and look, but I don't want to linger too long on this slide just because this is a test scenario using 2020 data just to show how the formula works and to make sure, again, that nothing wacky was happening with the numbers. So we took the 2,222 units and split it out proportional shares of population. So 50% was distributed that way. 40% was distributed by proportional share of regional jobs, and then 10% was distributed by transportation, looking at land within the half-mile walkability radius of a transit station. You add these all together to get a total allocation number for each municipality over a 10-year time span. So what do these numbers mean? Although we make a region-wide projection, every town prepares for a different level of growth based on the allocation factors that we selected. So population, jobs, and transit. This means Middletown's probably going to be looking at the greatest amount of growth, and Lyme is probably going to be looking at the least, and everyone else is going to fall somewhere in the middle, which matches pretty well with the map that you can see on the slide, which is from our regional housing plan and also our regional plan of conservation and development. And this allows towns to right size their planning approaches to better understand the scale of the development that they should be planning for and which levers they should be pulling. For example, I picked on Deep River when we did this for the Regional Housing Committee, so I will pick on them again because they were a very good sport. But ultimately, if we look at Deep River, the 2020 allocation was 46 units over 10 years. Ultimately, the market determines whether those 46 units are ever built. However, the town will have the opportunity to look at land use plans and zoning regulations and think about where they might want to see those units dispersed. And a breakdown might look something like this: adaptive reuse of a commercial or an industrial structure for 15 apartment or condo units. You could allow duplexes in a residential neighborhood near Main Street. And if that covers 40 parcels of single family, you've netted 20 additional units. You could also allow single family units in a certain area to be converted into up to 3 units. And if that covers a minimum of 8 lots, you have a net gain of 16 units. Alternatively, it could look like allowing apartment complexes up to 15 units on a minimum of 3 sites. So there's variety, but it's all up to the municipality of how they would like to do it. And if you looked at your zoning regulations and you said, well, these things are already allowed to happen, then maybe zoning isn't the problem. It should be noted that changing the regulations alone doesn't create housing, but it is a step and an exercise to start and can help guide the process. So some final points. This is a planning tool. It's there to help us make long-term decisions and to be less reactive to development proposals as they come in. It's not any sort of a requirement for anyone to build units. It's not any sort of a mandate on towns. It's not an extension or any relationship to 830G. And our next steps for this, what we would hope to do is to use this methodology to inform updates to our regional housing plan and the 830J plans. We would take the process and apply the most recent updated data and see what comes out. Plan updates are due in 2027, even though it feels like we just did this. And so we would expect to start updating in mid to late 2025, which is this year. So very soon. Other things we'd like to do with this, we'd like to reference the methodology as we work with the Regional Housing Committee on toolkit items, such as template zoning regulations or public engagement exercises. And also when we talk about development proposals, or projects that are potentials in different towns, using this as sort of a measuring stick. And then we are engaged with the state tangentially on their fair share study. We have been asked to participate in a couple of working group sessions. They do know that this is an independent process that we have been working on. So we would continue to engage with the state and provide updates on their process as well. So that is all for me. Thank you for bearing with me. And yeah, that's it.
And Tony, if I may, I'll just add on to what Megan just was talking about with the state's fair share housing methodology. The COGs have been invited to a couple meetings. We have been invited to a meeting next week to get briefed on their findings. As many of you know, a couple years ago, the General Assembly passed a public act that directed OPM to do a fair share housing methodology to reallocate affordable units from the cities to suburban and rural towns. And this public act did not provide for any public involvement or transparency of the process to create a methodology. So we felt it was important that we created a methodology that was transparent, did have publicly accessible public meetings, and was created with the cooperation of our municipalities and representatives of the land use commissioners from the towns that have those powers. So so the idea here was to create something from the bottom up from our towns. And what has been created based on best practices from around the country really lines up well with our adopted 2022 regional housing plan. So it shows that, you know, a methodology may have to be regional to really fit the region. Other parts of the state may focus more on, you know, sewer and water availability. Here we don't have a lot of sewer and water, so that factor really fell out for purposes. But in other parts of the state, a different methodology may make sense. So this is we brought this to you today for endorsement, and we will use this in the continued work with the Regional Housing Committee, but also work in our work with the General Assembly on any housing bills that come out this session.
All right, Sam, do either you or Megan have a proposed motion that you would like to be adopted?
Megan, do you have a?
I did not prepare language, no.
I think the motion would be to endorse.
No, you had a memo in the file that had your motion.
Yes.
I did. I did, as a matter
Yeah,
of
you
fact.
did. That's right.
So I would move to endorse the use of the regional housing needs assessment methodology for use in the update of the regional housing plan and to inform future conversations about housing.
I second
Megan's
that
memo.
motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you,
Tony,
Eliza.
can I just say thank you to Megan and her group for all the work they've done?
Absolutely,
This is
Irene, go
great.
ahead.
Thank you, Megan, for all your work, and this is a great body of work, and I'm glad you're sharing it up in Hartford.
Thank you.
Good job, and good catch, Dave. At least someone read their packet.
Once in a while.
Okay, moving along, regional election advisor.
Yes.
Is Carol here?
No, she is not. She had a conflict today, so I'm going to give her a report.
Okay, go ahead, Sam.
So the first, actually, I was going to give anyway. Also, 2 years ago, a public act was passed by the General Assembly and signed by the governor to fund our previously unfunded regional election advisor position at RiverCOG. The secretary, the public act requires that we have an MOU with the Secretary of the State. Our Secretary of State last year was unable to meet the statutory deadline of March 1st to have an MOU, but we are working with her office now. And so and this is for an amount of $25,000. I'm looking for authorization to enter into that MOU with the Secretary of State. We don't have, we're still working on a draft with her, but this is to receive the $25,000 that will help fund Carol's position.
So moved.
Thank you.
I got a motion second. Second. Any further discussion?
I'll just add that I have not I have paused contract renewal discussions with Carol until I get the money. Although I have authorized her to continue work on a month-to-month basis, just because she's working with new registrars. So we're working under the payment that we've had from the previous contract, but we haven't signed a new contract because I wanted to make sure we got the money first.
Okay. Any further questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the MOU, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And
So I have an email from Carol, so I'm going to read her email to all of you as our update. Hi, Sam. Relative to concerns for towns or CEOs, many have been plagued with Freedom of Information Act requests from the organization called Fight Voter Fraud. State has notified that many of these requests are being dropped. Town may hear info from the state specifically if the request was very specific versus something that's more blanket request of voter data. As for why, some saying the organization is having funding issues, not enough concrete found, but that's hearsay at this time. New tabulators are starting to be processed to towns, state funded, and they will be setting up training for the new tabulators. I'm in touch with our newly sworn in registrars in multiple towns, and I'll be working with them, getting them on board. So if you have any questions, please reach out to Carol, and we can of course get you her phone number and email address if necessary. So that's her update.
thanks, Sam. Okay. Moving on to MPO business, and the first item is the one we moved up, Jennifer Brady from the Federal Highway Administration. Jennifer?
Yes, good morning. I'm just going to share my screen here. Are you able to see it?
Not yet. I just made you co-host.
Okay.
Now we can see it.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. Jennifer Brady with the Federal Highway Administration in the Connecticut Division. I'm here with my colleague from the Federal Transit Administration, Region 1, to talk about the New Haven Transportation Management Area Certification Review. And I really want to hear from you, and don't think anyone here from the public, but how the transportation planning process is going. I know Sam also has our contact information that he can share with you if you're more comfortable contacting me offline. So I'm going to start with, again, who we are. I've lived in Connecticut most of my career. I am in Hartford, in the federal building in Hartford. I've been with Federal Highway for 5 years, but I am not new to metropolitan planning. I've spent most of my career in metropolitan planning. Someone you may see at some of your meetings is Eric Shortell. He's your liaison, and he's typically at occasional monthly meetings. As I mentioned before, joining us out of the Cambridge, Massachusetts office, who's going to do the second part of this presentation, is Christina Mendoza. So Federal Highway and Federal Transit are required, and still under all that we've been seeing going on in Washington, but we are still required to jointly review and certify the transportation planning practices of metropolitan planning organizations within areas of population greater than 200,000. And we're talking about the New Haven area. There are many portions of RiverCOG that have New Haven urbanized areas. And we do these joint reviews once every 4 years. We look to ensure compliance with the bipartisan infrastructure law, or what some of you may know as Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And we also make sure you're compliant with some federal regulations. We conducted the last review in 2021, and that concluded in May of that year. So the deadline for this next one will be in May of 2025. So today we want to understand how transportation planning in the New Haven TMA is going. Do you feel draft planning documents are easily made available and that you've had an opportunity to participate in the planning process? Do you feel project selection is fair and reasonable? Are you receiving the technical assistance that you need as it relates to transportation planning? And any comments that you have or you want to give to us after, we're going to take that into consideration and summarize it in a final certification review report. And so I know we have been through this process, both with Chairman Salvatore and Sam Gold and his team. I know I truly appreciate Sam's energy and positive approach to the certification review. So we've started the review. at the end of the review, we're looking to start looking at all of the transportation documents that have been completed in the four years, preparing a technical report of that. But at the end of this, we'll be issuing a certification. There's 3 categories that we either certify you, we certify you subject to corrective actions, or we don't certify you. It's very highly unlikely that we don't certify you, but we do want to kind of just, put that in here. So we're meeting with you and the public to hear today, and any comments will be coming out, specifically meeting with RiverCOG and the South Central Region Council of Governments to understand how they're doing transportation planning too, and just wanted to come out today. But I'm going to turn it over to Christina to talk a little bit about the planning process. So Christina.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great.
Yes.
Thanks for having me today, and thank you, Jennifer. I'm happy to be here. Today I'm going to briefly discuss the metropolitan planning, transportation planning process, which is a process by which transportation decisions are made and projects are planned, selected, and prioritized for implementation within the region. So why is this important? Well, this process helps to determine how federal dollars are allocated within the region annually. Due to funding constraints, the MPO must prioritize projects that address regional needs and best meet performance goals and objectives, as well as provide the most public benefit. So this process helps to lay the framework for the future of the transportation system within the region. Next slide. So this process is primarily led by the MPO in coordination with CTDOT, public transportation operators, the federal agencies, FHWA and FTA, as well as other stakeholders and the public. Next slide. So as a result of the planning process, the MPO works with its partners to develop core planning documents, including the Unified Planning Work Program, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Congestion Management Process, and the Transportation Improvement Program, as well as the Public Participation Plan. So these documents must be developed through a continuing cooperative and comprehensive, or 3C, multimodal transportation planning process. This is a requirement that came out of the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1962. This process is designed to engage the public and key stakeholders in establishing goals and a shared vision for their community. Next slide. Oh, I think I had the two of them switched. So essentially, as Jennifer mentioned here, we're hoping to hear more from you and get your thoughts and perspectives on the transportation planning process with the MPO. How you've been involved, how it's going, what are your views of the process, etc. So.
And I think we heard some comments before. I know the timeliness of everything going on in Washington with our presentation. So again, we have our contact information here. We know you have a full agenda, but Chairman, if you want to open it up to comment, or it's hard for Christina and I to talk about other things, but if we need to, we can briefly touch upon some things.
Sure. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation, and I'll open it up to questions. We'll try to keep them at this time relevant to the presentation.
Mr. Chair, I'll just add that the last time we went through this process 4 years ago, RiverCOG we were recertified, and we actually got a commendation for our work on transit. So we've I want to just acknowledge our senior transportation planner, Rob Harrimet, who is on top of everything MPO, and I'm sure that we will come through this with a good certification as well. And I know it's off topic, but I'm very worried about us getting our PL money funded. And I know Grayson Wright from Connecticut DOT is on the call as well. I did see that there was an executive order freezing things for 90 days. Like since our planning money, our federal transportation planning money is obviously important for paying our salaries. This is something which isn't, I know it's off topic, but if you have any information on that, whether Jennifer or Christina or Grayson, that would be helpful.
Or perhaps that you can convey our concerns to Washington, and we would appreciate that being considered, as they do make some important decisions there. Either you or Jennifer or Christina have anything?
Sure. And I know we heard briefly from both Murphy and Courtney's offices about the uncertainty going forward. We are waiting for implementation guidance from both the OMB, Office of Management Budget, and the Office of the Secretary of Transportation. So we were kind of guided that we should pause our disbursement of funds that are apportioned through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And it does specifically say including but not limited to. I think we heard on Monday some of the funding for electric vehicle charging stations and some of the both the formula and the discretionary grant programs for EVs. So I know that has been in some of the executive orders we're seeing kind of their focus. But again, we're waiting, we're on pause. I know our division administrator, who I'd actually he's not here today, but we do have a new division administrator at some point. Sam, Chairman Salvatore, if you'd like him to kind of meet with you. John McAvoy is our new division administrator, replacing Amy Jackson Grove, who you may have worked with previously. So Christina and I are kind of waiting for this implementation guidance. Things are on pause. I heard some of the federal system pauses, depending on the program. It could be a matter of a day, it could be a matter of a little bit longer than that. So we will take any messages we can to headquarters, but it is uncertain at this time.
Well, thank you. And again, anything you can convey on our half, we would appreciate it. And yes, we would look forward to meeting with the gentleman as soon as he's available.
Excellent.
And Mr. Chair, just this is just a question. It might be for Jennifer, it might be for Grayson. The way that our funding works for our planning grant for our UPWP is we're always spending old money because of the misalignment of the state and federal fiscal years. Does the state of Connecticut receive that money in advance? Has it received, let's say, the fiscal 23 or 24 money, and so that money has already been dispersed to Connecticut DOT, and so when we put in our reimbursements for PL to Connecticut DOT, do they have that money, or does that request, when we do our quarterly billing to Connecticut DOT, does that then go to FTA and FHWA?
So Grayson, I know you're here too, I'm not familiar with that. Sam, I think the old money is in the system, and I think it's been kind of appropriately obligated through the fiscal management system, but I'd have to confirm that. I do better on the engineering side and planning than I do on the finance, but I don't know, Grayson, if you had anything.
I'll have to confirm that with our finance section and get back to you. So I'll double check and get back to you on that.
Yeah, no,
with some information.
Because the way, just for the information of all the board members, Connecticut DOT is the fiduciary for almost all of our federal transportation grants, except for the Safe Streets and Roads for All, which is a direct grant from US DOT. But everything else, Connecticut DOT is the fiduciary, so the money goes to Connecticut DOT and then comes to us. And so the question is there money at DOT that they've already received that we have not yet been so it may not be a pause for us, and SS4A may be paused potentially, but if Connecticut DOT already has the money in hand, there may not be one. But yeah, if you could Grayson, if you could investigate and work with our colleagues at Federal Highway and FTA, that would be helpful.
And you're referring specifically to planning funds, right?
I think he's referring to projects that we've already been approved for.
So there's projects that are on the tip, federally funded, federally aid projects that currently are underway, but also our UPWP, which of course is of importance to us because
Oh, okay. Okay.
salaries.
Sam, why don't you work it out with Grace and see what you can come up with and then advise us at the next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
And Jennifer and Christina, we appreciate it. And again, if you can assist Sam in any way with his concerns, we would appreciate that also.
Very good. We will.
Anyone have any additional questions? Thank you very much, ladies. We appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving along, the approval of the minutes from December 11th for the COG and the MPO. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Irene and Dave, any further discussion or corrections? Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, the version of the agenda that you have in front of you for the speaker's agenda does not include the minutes for the special meeting. Although, if I'm correct, Eliza, the minutes for the special meeting was posted on the public agenda, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So,
Okay, if they were posted on the special,
well, the public agenda, the speaker's agenda I gave you, Mr. Chair, doesn't.
Yeah.
That, but
I get you. So that's what I was gonna say. If it's on the appropriate agenda that was properly posted, then I will accept a B1 as approval of the special meeting minutes from what date, Sam?
yeah, that was
December 20.
yeah. So that was
December 20th.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item C now, the tip amendments. Without objection, since it appears they're all connected, I'll take C 1, 2, and 3 at the same time. And Rob, go ahead and give us an update.
Sure. This is 25 tip amendment number 5. This amendment is for detection upgrades at various signal locations in the New Haven urbanized area to reduce vehicle delays and emissions. Basically, this project replaces the in-pavement loop detectors with 360-degree stop bar detection and the limit zone radar for approximately 42 state-owned signals. This may sound familiar, as last summer the MPO board adopted the preliminary design phase in 2024. These 3 amendments add a final design phase in 25, construction in 26, and construction in 27. Back last summer, I did send out the list of projects. There was about, I want to say 8 or 10 signals on Route 1 in Old Saybrook and 1 on Route 17 in Durham. I did not send that list out again with your agenda. There was the new project description from the ESTIP, which we'll talk about a little later, which actually just showed the project map, so that went out instead. So what these 3 amendments are, the first is New Haven urbanized area, various locations. It's project number 170-3742. Uses carbon reduction program New Haven funding, exempt from air quality. The official titles: detection upgrades at various traffic signals, final design phase in 2025. It's an 80-20 federal state split and is a new project. On the first line item there, number 1, there is a typo. It is listed at 180 million. It's really only 180,000 for this final design phase. So just make sure everyone's aware of that. The next two line items is a construction phase in 26 for 3 million and a construction phase in 27 for 2.3 million.
We're taking all three, Rob.
Yep, that was all three.
Oh, that is. Oh,
Yep.
Very good. All right. Any questions for Rob? Okay, I'll take a motion. We need a motion, Rob?
Yes.
Okay, need a motion without objection on C 1, 2, and 3.
I'll move approval of those three items.
Dave, second, please.
Second,
Second, Cindy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Rob, the 2024 obligated project list?
Yep, you're probably familiar with this if you've been on the board for some time. 23 CFR 450.334 requires MPOs publish or make available for review an annual listing of projects which federal funds were obligated the preceding year. This list is consistent with the current categories in the tip. It's broken out by MPO, statewide projects, district-wide projects, multi-regional projects. Those that were highlighted in yellow are bike ped projects. This spreadsheet was sent out with the agenda, and it shows all the lists of projects obligated and granted in federal fiscal year 2024. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it or if there were any questions regarding the list.
Any questions, for Rob? Okay, thanks, Rob. Electronic STIP.
Okay, you may have heard of this for years as well. This is the electronic STIP tip process. DOT has been talking about it for, I don't even know how long, 5, 10 years, probably even longer. Basically, at this point, DOT is moving to an electronic STIP process using Eco Interactive Data Solutions. They're a tech company from California. This is going to be a cloud-based system using their project tracking module. This is used by probably about half the states in the United States. So our past few amendments, we've been going through this process with the various COGs and the state. Hopefully within a year or so, DOT intends to try to make it public. So basically anyone can go on and look at it electronically. This does cut down on, a lot of back and forth with the actual spreadsheets and things like that. So that's all I have there.
Any questions on that subject? Seeing none, moving on. Transportation rural improvement.
Yep, the Transportation Rural Improvement Program, that's a state program. It's TRIP. I think back in October and November, we sent out project solicitations to the eligible towns. I've followed up with them a few times. There's about 2 towns at least that I know of interested in submitting applications. They are due at the end of the month, so just make sure you get those in. We do have to get them to DOT by February 7th, so if you can get them in by the end of the month, that'd be great. Then we can review them and sign off on them. Unlike most of the federal projects, as we we heard from Jennifer, these will not be ranked by the MPO board as they have in the past. They are all just going to DOT, and DOT is going to do the ranking process at a statewide level. So we do not have to prioritize them, which is why we have the end of the month instead of doing it now as we would have in a traditional program. So just get those in for those of you who plan to do so.
Any questions? Seeing none, active transportation micro grant program, Rob?
Sure, this is another state program. Last year was the pilot program. It's for active transportation grants of $5,000 or less. Back in it was just recently increased for this calendar year 25, from 500,000 to 750. thousand. Applications will continue to be accepted on a quarterly basis and forwarded to DOT at the end of each quarter. We've had probably between 1 and 5 applications per quarter. So yeah, we're doing a good job trying to get it out. The Middletown school systems have done a few. Cromwell has done a few. Some of the YMCA's have done a few applications. I forget the others, but those are just the ones that come to mind. Typically, it's for small scale things such as bike helmets, bikes, things like that. And the new guidance that just came out, I haven't even had a chance to review it yet. I think bike racks and bike lockers will be eligible. So that will kind of increase the options for the future applications.
Okay, any questions regarding that program? Okay, seeing none, other transportation. Rob?
Yep.
and
Yeah,
then-
just a few items under other for the loop trail. We're hoping to have the draft report out for review soon. We're going to start our public comment period Monday at the RPC meeting, and then hopefully have it endorsed by the MPO board in February or possibly March. For SS4A, we are basically finalizing our safety analysis, our mapping tool takeaways, public meeting summaries we had recently, and all that will be posted on the project website. After all that, our next steps are to begin basically developing the countermeasures and the actual meat of the program. I know we had our consultant FHI here, and they were talking about the Vision Zero policy. That'll be another part of it, and we'll have to work through that and other aspects, provided program still funded. Also under other, real quick, I know we were talking about the certification review. The 2627 UPWP is currently under development. Hopefully we'll have that for endorsement in April by the MPO board. So I think that is all I have coming.
And I'll just add, under other transportation, I am talking to Laura Francis at South Central Region about a potential of a raise grant or whatever this new administration might rename it for implementation of the Central Connecticut Loop Trail study, which we're wrapping up. This would bring the airline trail west through Portland over the Argonne Bridge, Middletown connecting to Meriden, and eventually to the Farmington Canal Trail in Cheshire. So we're looking at potentially a 2 or 3 MPO application for projects along this corridor. So yeah, so I'll be working with her on that, although I would not be surprised if that program somehow changed in this administration as well.
Okay, any questions for either Rob or Sam? Yes, Cindy.
Rob, the loop trail that you're referring to that you're going to bring before the RPC for approval is the Heritage Loop Trail, the East Haddam, Chester Haddam one, or the airline?
It's the airline trail.
Okay.
Yeah, linking up between the airline trail where it ends in East Hampton to in Cheshire, where it meets up the Farmington Canal Trail. We're kind of just looking primarily at the area of Middletown and Portland. About 2 years ago, Meriden did their own study, and Cheshire has some plans too for an on-road route. So we're primarily focused on Middletown and the section of Portland.
Hey, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions? I just want to add that under other transportation, I attended, and as did Grayson for DOT, the meeting in Middletown regarding the traffic light removals, and the state is moving along this is in my entire career, this is the most I've seen coming out of that type of work regarding the removal of those lights. And I think the plan is actually pretty decent to in fact remove those lights and reduce the number of crashes at those 2 intersections is the whole goal here. At any rate, it appears the state's very serious and very aggressive on this project. Grayson, did I miss something, or do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I would agree with you. I mean, I've been around for a while, and I can remember when this was being looked at maybe almost 20 years ago, compared to then. You're correct. This is an ongoing project, and we've been very responsive in terms of the inputs that are being provided by the city and the municipalities that are involved and the emergency agencies. So it looks positive, and the meetings have been positive and well attended so far. So I can see only good things coming out of these meetings.
I don't know if either Grayson or if you had any questions, but I know that this is a big initiative for the city of Middletown, and it comes along with challenges as always, at least over the years with the merchants on Main Street. But I think, in all honesty, DOT has taken that into consideration this time. And again, it's not perfect, but we're not dealing with a perfect situation out there with a lot of room and a lot of land to deal with between a railroad and a river. It's pretty tough, but so far, from the standpoint of Cromwell, I'm satisfied, and we've had meetings with myself, at the time, Ryan and Dave with DOT. So we'll keep an eye on this unless someone has a question. Okay,
Tony,
Carl.
do they have a preliminary design? I mean, what is the design?
The design basically is to put an exit going north down by Silver Street with a roundabout. And if you were going to go to Portland, you would traverse the Coven up to Rapallo Avenue and then over the bridge. If you missed that exit, the next exit would be the old exit 18 in Cromwell. I think it's 25 now, if I remember correctly, where there'd be another roundabout at the end of Main Street, and you would go back south into the city of Middletown, and then at Hartford Avenue, take the exit to go over the Portland Bridge. They seem to have worked it out pretty good, and there's appears to be a few things that still need to be worked out within the city, but it would cause the removal of the two lights on Route 9, which I've been told over the years are the only two lights on highways between here and Florida for an interstate. But at any rate, the southbound exits for the most part would remain. There would, coming off of Hartford Avenue off the bridge, there would be an overpass to go northbound, so you'd still be able to go northbound. Grayson, did I miss something? Okay, he's not with us. Go ahead, Grayson.
Yeah, you got it. I'm not as familiar with the details, but I think you've done a good job presenting some of the issues that have popped up and the solutions that we have for them. I mean, it's mainly environmental justice issues, pedestrian safety, environmental concern, noise and air pollutions, environmental concerns at Sumner Brook, the aquifers and public water supply and wetland area. And of course, an increasing congestion downtown. Yes, I think you've covered the discussions that I heard. about a few meetings I've attended so far. I mean, we can always share. I can check with the project manager to talk about the possibility of maybe having a presentation to the board at some point. I think it's still maybe a little bit too early in the planning stage for that, but I can, if it's something the board would like to have presented to them, I can reach out to the department's project manager to provide more detail.
Yeah, I think at some point it would be, because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, we will have a vote on this under the MPO, correct?
Yeah, no, there'll be multiple tip amendments because the state will be using federal funding at some point for this project.
So any of the concerns, any of the municipalities, especially the city of Middletown and the town of Portland have, we want to make sure they are addressed for them. As we do have some control with regards to funding, I would say. And we want to ensure that anything they have would be appropriately addressed to their concerns.
Yeah, Grayson will greatly appreciate that. To answer your questions in advance of any tip amendments. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. And moving on, Transit District, Brendan.
Sure thing, everybody. As this was discussed previously, we launched our tap and ride program in October. This allows our riders to tap their debit card and credit card to get on the bus. It's gone well. The big update there is that we've actually completed a process for seniors and riders with disabilities to now access their 50% off discount. They have to apply on our website, but they can fill out a quick form, and that will allow them to tap and actually still get their half off discount. So if anyone's interested, check out our website, and there's information there. We're still working on getting the bus shelters installed in Middletown. We have planned for 4 bus shelters in Middletown at key locations. We're also working on a bus stop transition from a flag stop to a signed bus stop system. So we'll be installing lots of bus stop signs across the region. We actually have submissions for the RFP to review in a week, so we'll be getting some submissions for installation from contractors, and we'll be reviewing those. Our search expansion has still been going well. We're seeing good ridership in the weeknights, Saturday nights, and Sundays. Extra miles going well. We're seeing good ridership there. And finally, our electric buses are going to be on the road soon. We have all the equipment installed in them now, so we have 2 electric buses that should be going on the road relatively soon. So that'll be on the lookout for those. They look a little different, but they have the same state signage across them, so they should be pretty easy to spot. And yeah, that's pretty much a quick update for you. But happy to answer any questions and anything like that.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Where would the seniors find that application, Brendan?
Sure. So they can go to our website. Yeah, rivervalleytransit.com. It's right in the top banner. It'll say CT tap and ride, and click that, and there'll be a place to get the application. We have been receiving a few applications, but if seniors are curious about that, definitely direct them there.
Great program. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that appears to conclude our MPO business. I want to thank Jennifer and Christina for the presentation from US Highway, and we will now go into COG business. And the first item is, unfortunately, fiscal year 26 dues. Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the executive committee met last week to discuss 4 different dues proposals, a 0% increase, 1% increase, a 2% increase, and a 3% increase. Dues cover our non-federal match for a number of our grants, federal grants, and it is our most flexible funding because this money is ours to keep. We don't have to return it to anyone. It as of last fiscal year, dues made up about 6.88% of our agency's $3.3 million budget. So it's a relatively small amount of our budget. Or another way of looking at it is we leverage those dues we stretch them quite far. The proposal that was endorsed by the executive committee was a 2% increase. And you'll see on the spreadsheet that was sent out, actually I can share my screen, just give me a second. You'll see it's the increases are in the hundreds of dollars. This is the lowest increase being Lyme at just at 162, and Middletown having the largest increase at $757. So it's a total increase across the 17 municipalities of $4,522 for a total dues amount of $230,596. The way we calculate dues is we have a base amount plus a per capita increment, and so you'll see in the memo. The suggested motion is to approve RiverCOG fiscal year 26 dues at a base payment of $6,660.45.
They went and inspected.
Sorry, Irene. Yep. And then a per capita increment of 66.6 cents. And we are using the Connecticut Department of Health 2023 population estimates. So even if we kept it at zero increase, there still is a change up and down by a few dollars based on population fluctuations. So that is the recommendation of the executive committee, and we do the dues adoption in January, so we can send out letters to each of your municipalities for your budget. So thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Any questions? Seeing no questions, can I get a motion to adopt the 2% increase?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moved in second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up, Janice is the dues for calendar year 2025. Household hazardous waste program. Janice?
Can I just ask?
Excuse me 1 second. Irene?
Sorry, just a quick question.
Yeah.
Sam, do you know when you're going to send out those figures, the permanent, 2%, so we know?
So I can send out I can resend out the spreadsheet today.
Okay.
Usually we do write up letters, but I can send out the adopted dues spreadsheet to all the CEOs today, so you can get that over to your finance people.
Great, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
We're gonna wait until we get all the household hazardous waste approved, everything, you send it all in one.
Yeah, we can send it all together.
Yeah, okay.
All right, good morning, everyone. I have been working on the 2025 schedule for the hazardous waste and paper shredding events. It will be very similar to what we had last year. We have 7 hazardous waste events and 4 paper shredding events. The locations will be the same as last year. And as always, the collections are on Saturdays, so the dates will change accordingly to the Saturdays. We are continuing with our vendor who we have used for the last 5 years, MXI from New Jersey. 1 more year, we're going to continue with them. And at the end of this next season, 25, we'll probably be sending out a RFP to see what we can get as options. As for the 2026 budget proposal, we've calculated what it would cost for that, and it comes out lower than it has for the last year, which is a plus for everyone. Reason being, not that things are going down. There's a couple things, the bulky waste and the shredding vendors, both of those prices are going up, but we are just kind of tightening the budget up a bit more as we have a pretty generous recycling fund balance. And if there's no changes, we should be just fine with this budget proposal for 26. But if there is any overages, we can use the recycling fund balance for that. There are two parts to this budget. There is the operation and management part, and also the dues assessment, which is the second sheet that you would have, explaining what the difference is and what the towns would owe for that. I can send this out again, certainly. And this cost is only one part of what the costs are for our program. The second costs are when a resident comes to a collection, we figure out how many households that resident brings. The vendor comes with the calculation at the end of our collection and what the cost of disposal and all for that waste is, and the towns are then charged per household for that waste. That number would come from RiverCOG, from Paula, as the second part to our hazardous waste and paper shredding event program. The executive committee was presented with this budget, and we have now a recommendation from them to hopefully pass a motion on this new budget for 26.
So we endorsed Janice's recommendation, and in your packet, you have the one, and the one that is highlighted is the reductions for each town. You should have been able to see it in your packet, and then she did post the budget. So we're only doing, we should be doing two, no. We'll do one vote based on the executive committee's recommendation to adopt the reduction. So it'll be the vote on the entire operation.
Right.
So if I can get a motion, and that number would be, am I right? 164,127.
That's the balance. It would be 196.10.
That's what I thought was up there.
Yep.
Okay, a motion for the household hazardous waste operation budget of $196,010.
I'll make a motion.
Motion second.
I'll second that.
Second, and Dave, you question?
No, I assume you're basically trying to tell us we're covering it all. The dues proposal as well as the budget for the household hazardous waste program. Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
All right.
Yes, we are.
I was just confirming that that's what the motion that was made and I just seconded was doing.
Correct. Yes, by adopting the recommendation to do the reduction and utilize other funding sources, we are covering it off without passing it on.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Janice.
Welcome.
Margot, your budget for the invasive plant removal project.
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. I have a couple things under this agenda item, one for the water chestnut program and one for the hydrilla program, but start with the water chestnut program. And as you know, we've been working on water chestnut mitigation in the region since 2011. And in 2023, we received the Aquatic Invasive Species Grant from Connecticut Deep. It was for a 2 years program. And this year we have had enough funding left over to ask Deep to extend that last year we got another 1 year extension, and this year we're asking for another extension. So it would extend the grant from a 2-year grant to a 4-year grant. And so we have enough funding in the grant to cover staff time and gas. And we asked Deep if we could also move extra gas money in the amount of $2,300 to our equipment line item to help with that. And it's pending, but they have said that we could do that. We're waiting for the formal contract. Having said that, the extension of the grant for 4 years also necessitates a little bit more income for our equipment line item, which in the memo, it describes what the equipment line item covers: our slip at the marina, engine winterization, and associated boat equipment, insurance for being out on the water. And let's see, for the discussion with the exec committee that we had, they thought that $150 due for each town would be appropriate and leave us with a budget of $712 in fiscal year, let's see, 2026 of for any other equipment or associated fees that come with the program.
So your recommendation is to approve $150 assessment?
Yes.
Okay, there was a lot of debate with the executive committee on this with regards to this program, and we did endorse Margot's recommendation. However, we strongly feel that there needs to be more involvement by the federal government and the state of Connecticut. As I think Dave said, we're kind of spitting in the wind here with regards to our efforts when it's being carried by RiverCOG or the Connecticut River. And there needs to be more involvement, more money, and it needs to come from the federal government and the state of Connecticut. And we, as the Lower River Valley COG, just can't afford through our municipal budgets to continue to fund this effort, which is greatly needed, by the way. Nobody's diminishing that. Because of the takeover by these invasive aquatic plants. So,
and I'll just
yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Is that after the meeting of the executive committee, Margot expressed to me how frustrated she is, obviously, because we're stepping into a public resource that is much larger than our region. It's the largest river in New England. And so it's a state and federal concern, and we do have support. We've gotten support from Blumenthal and Murphy with the Army Corps of Engineers, so we are getting some support. But it's one of those things where we have been the leader in this vacuum.
And amongst us, I have to commend Margot's efforts in this area. She has done. Over the years that I've been here, an outstanding job, very aggressive with her efforts. And if it wasn't for her, there probably wouldn't even be a program with regards to this. And it's very important because of the municipalities that are along the river that do have marinas and boating areas that if this was to take over completely, could affect their operations and summertime activities. So,
and I will add,
maybe our federal partners can hear us loud and clear. And Representative Courtney's office, I see I'm getting a nod from Julia. So, with that, I'll open it up if anyone has any questions of Margot and or any comments.
Mr. Chair, I just want to add that that these plants, since they are freshwater plants, also will infest our lakes and ponds. So this is a project for inland towns as well. You don't have to be on the river necessarily to benefit.
Correct. And it goes from the Connecticut River, and it does traverse up brooks and other waterways such as the Sabethy or Mattabesset River, and it gets into other and if they don't, if the boat is used in the Connecticut River and then launched in Lake Pond, it affects that body of water also. So I did see someone.
I think that was just a symbol for a thumbs up.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or statements? All right. So we have I need a motion. Margot's recommendation is $150 assessment for fiscal year 26. And I reluctantly, I do support this effort, but I'm looking for a motion.
Also move based on the conversation we've just had.
Dave, can I get a second? Irene, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Okay.
you.
Tony, I have one other item under this agenda item for Hydrilla. And that is good news for all of you that our the 50/50 cost share program that we applied to the Army Corps for Hydrilla mitigation has been approved, that the New England District can work on that with us. So that is really good news for our municipalities, as that will be possibly and is in some of our towns, as Dave can attest to, an expensive proposition to deal with. So that won't be going into effect until 2026 summer season. And hopefully our appropriations that fund those programs will be maintained as we get, further ahead with that. So that is good news. And the other item with that is that the Hydrilla program that we've worked really hard with our congressional staff to find appropriations for is also working on water chestnut. As we know, last year in Keeney Cove, which both had very bad Hydrilla infestation, as well as shore to shore incredible infestation of water chestnut, which only comes down the river to us, was mitigated through that treatment that they did for Hydrilla. So we hope for more of that in the coming season as they work. Hopefully, if we get the funding comes through in the budget to help with the water chestnut program. So we haven't forgotten about water chestnut and the whole Hydrilla equation, and they are going hand in hand. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Marit. GIS, Kevin?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So the Office of Policy and Management has put forth to all the COGs a grant program for parcel and CAMA data improvements. And the reason I want to bring this up to everyone here is that this particular program is kind of odd in that they are providing money for us to do work for OPM to your systems. So ultimately that does require your involvement, even though we're not allowed to give money directly to you from the federal funds. So the two sides of that, and I have our report card, so I'm going to call towns out in terms of what work needs to be done today. On the GIS side, meaning that there is CAMA information, but there is not a parcel associated with that to match it to. The towns that we'll be focusing on are Middletown, Killingworth, East Hampton, Haddam, and Durham. So this part's pretty simple. Currently, Capital Region is working on a group request for quotes. But realistically speaking, we're dealing with your already established GIS vendors. So rather than reinventing the wheel, it just makes sense to work directly with the companies that already provide your GIS services to enhance your current GIS system. That being said, any of those changes you need to be aware of. And also we want to make sure we're working closely with your assessors so that we're not making changes that they're unaware of. Mainly we'll be working with CIA Technologies in Durham, and then the rest of the towns are all tie and bond. On the other side of the equation, which is the CAMA side, meaning that there are parcels in your GIS system that do not match to a assessor's CAMA record. That is a little more difficult because we're asking your assessors to make changes to their system, and there's no way to compensate them for it. So we're still working on the details of how that's going to work. The grant program does allow for the COG to do work. So if that means that I have to go physically sit in your assessor's office and work with them and do the busy work, that's perfectly fine. If we do manage to find a vendor that is interested in doing that type of work, we can also go that route too. But the towns that are in the CAMA group, meaning that we need to work with the assessors a little more directly, is Old Lyme, Haddam, Westbrook, Deep River, and Durham. So if I didn't mention your town, you're more or less off the hook. If I didn't, though, there unfortunately no town is perfect, and there's no way to really achieve perfect. Those towns that I mentioned are what the OPM is targeting as the priority. Those are the ones that they want to really focus these grant funds towards in order to reach a better match rate, so that in March and April, when I go out to your assessors and collect the data and send it up to OPM, they don't have to spend as much time linking all of that information together and making a coherent statewide parcel layer. So that's the heads up. I will be reaching out probably directly to you as well as your various departments that this affects. But just to make you all aware that I will be reaching out to the GIS vendors within the next month just to shore up how this is going to work. Note that these GIS vendors are pretty much the same across the entire state of Connecticut. So all of the COGs are going to be bombarding these companies at the same time. So it's going to be an interesting juggle, but hopefully we'll do well. We have until the end of calendar year 2026 to use these funds, but obviously we don't want to wait till the last minute. Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
Any questions for Kevin? Dave?
Yes.
You're muted still, Dave.
Yeah, I was trying to get my button clicked. Kevin, remind me, how were the discrepancies identified?
So there is a specific layer or field, I should say, in both the GIS data and the CAMA database. That is what they call the link field. They essentially take that as a universal database ID and connect the two. The biggest piece on at least the CAMA to parcel side where there are discrepancies there, and that is particularly yours, is if there are condos. That seems to be the biggest. So any sort of multi-unit living arrangement where there's essentially one parcel but multiple records for property information for different owners. In the past, there hasn't been a set way of displaying that. Some towns do the carve-out method where they draw little squares within the parcel, and then they're not real geometric areas, but they're placeholders for the data to link. The OPM, particularly the GIO, has suggested a stacked parcel method, where there are multiple parcels of the exact same geometry stacked on top of each other so that you can have multiple records in the same physical space. Both solutions have their pros and cons. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to shake out. Again, that's another reason why we want to work very closely with your GIS folks and your assessors at the same time to make sure that we're not changing this to make it better for OPM and inadvertently causing problems for you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it. Any additional questions for Kevin? Okay, good job. Keep us posted, please. Moving on, Sam, legislative update. Good luck.
Yeah, so on the agenda, resending this to all of you. There's a link to our spreadsheet, our bill tracker spreadsheet, where we're listing information about the bills that we're looking at, that we're watching, and and Eliza and Susie are keeping this up to date. We are still going through bills and making sure that this list is comprehensive. Please take a look. If there's anything that you're aware of that's not on this list, please get that to us so we can add it to the list. And this link is where we'll be posting public hearing dates and the status of whether it's, those bills have passed or moved on to the House or Senate. And we'll also include links to so let me share this. Let me share this on my screen. I'll show you what it looks like. Just give me a second. So in the first column, you'll see that each one of these bills is a hyperlink. And if you click on those, that will take you to the CGA website for them, the bill title, and then where it stands. As we write and submit testimony, will be listed here. But yeah, please, this could become very, very busy very soon. So we're going to try to keep on top of this as the hearings pop up. Yeah, there's not too much to report at the moment. I'm not sure if Irene has anything to say about legislation or this session. If you have anything to add, Irene.
Sure. I just want to say to all of the CEOs on the call is to please send in testimony. Watch these bills, watch where they go. It's highly important, highly advantageous to the small towns in Connecticut if your voice is heard up there. And you can submit testimony overnight. You can Zoom into the meeting. You can go up there. Happy to meet you and bring you over where you need to go. We really need to make sure that our voices are heard because a lot of these bills are very detrimental to our small towns, our small town budgets, and taking away the rights of the people that elected officials to do this job. All of you, I think, have been elected, most of you. It matters. And this is where you can make changes. Stop yelling about Trump, get local, get Connecticut to listen to the small towns because we really can make a difference. So I appreciate you all. And I'd love to see more of you up there because I am, between me and Norm, we're the only folks yelling about, small towns and, Norm's yelling different things than I am. So the more voices we have up there, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you very much, Irene. Couldn't agree more. Okay. Anything else legislatively, Sam?
Nothing at the moment.
Thank you. All right, Janice, Regional Waste Authority study.
Right, thank you. The Regional Waste Authority, our consultant for this study was selected. Well, the study is to look at waste and recycling that the region does and finding alternate solutions that would save money and working with the difficulties of the Mirror transfer station closing, forming either a regional waste authority, joining another one, or finding a different solution that would work for the region. So anyway, in that, we are working with our consultant, RRS, Resource Recycling Services, and working on the contract with them. Hopefully the beginning of February, we'll be starting our study. So that's one part that we've worked on. The second thing is there was a meeting with the Mirror Towns last Friday. And I wondered if anybody would speak about any conclusions that were made as a result of that meeting. Any other CEOs, Mira CEOs that were at that meeting?
Yeah, basically Norm is getting us a price from Jason. We're still waiting on that. And then the towns will make a decision. I think that's kind of really the gist of what was an hour and a half meeting.
Okay, all right.
And that we
Anybody
were,
else? Go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
it kind of seemed like we all agreed that sticking together as a coherent group made more sense. So that's the only other thing I'd add to that.
Excellent. And that would be my report for Regional Waste Authority.
Thank you, Janice. Any questions for Janice or any other comments? All right, seeing none, moving along. Margo, do you have more on hazardous mitigation plan?
Yes, I do. Some good news in that we received proposals for the grant and have a committee together to interview for the proposals, and we have our city planner from Middletown and town planners from Portland and East Haddam. And then for RiverCOG, we have Sam, Eliza, and me on that committee. If any of you would like to sit on that committee, please let us know. But the bad news is that we haven't received our grant yet. So I am curious about that. The proposals are good for 120 days. So hopefully within that time period, we receive our grant and we can move forward with that. And that's it on that.
Thanks, Margo. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving along. Susie, Demis update.
Good morning, everyone. I reported to the executive committee last week that the Region 2 rep, the regional emergency planning team, has voted to go with another fiduciary agent. So after the end of the 2023 grant year, which will conclude in 2026, spring of next year, RiverCOG will no longer be a fiduciary agent for Region 2, for the Demis Region 2. That's all I have to report. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for Susie on Demis? Thanks, Susie. Appreciate it. Chairman, Executive Director's update. Sam, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'll give the financial report. As of December 31st, 2024, the council had completed 6 months of fiscal year 2025, and overall spending is within the parameters of the adopted $3.3 million budget. A couple odd items that are running high are dues, subscriptions, professional development, seminars, conferences, and also the travel budget is running high, but any overages could be covered by other line items being under. As of the end of the year, our STIP account totaled $1.8 million, and our Liberty checking account was $588. Liberty checking is high due to receiving the Regional Waste Authority advance of $125,000 on December 31st.
Sam, you're cutting in and out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so our checking account balance is a little high because Deep gave us an advance on the Regional Waste Authority grant of $125,000, and the balance of our checking account is, as of the end of the year, was $183,000.
Any questions? Okay, the only thing I want to say is I agree. I think I can't stress enough. I agree with Irene and the position of we have to stay involved legislatively and watch the legislation coming out of Hartford. There's going to be quite a bit, I think, that's going to end up affecting us one way or another, and we should respond when appropriately. And I know Sam does a lot, so if he asks for assistance, please give him all the help you can with regards to bills coming out of Hartford. They're already starting. I take a look at some of them, and every year amazes me. I don't know why. No offense, Irene. Why don't you guys take a couple of years off, save it for us?
So I think Irene has her hand raised.
Yeah, I know. I seen it. Go ahead, Irene. I'm sorry.
No problem, Tony. And I think that's the best thing we can do is to take a 2-year vacation. Believe me, the less legislating we do, the better off we all are. But I will tell you that in next month's meeting, things will have moved along. Like right now, you can get hot under the collar about all kinds of stuff that they're throwing up to see what sticks. Next month's meeting, we'll have a better handle on which ones are really coming through. But I can say that the Senate bills, take a look at them. Right now, some of them are just concepts, which means there's no words behind it, so you don't actually know what they're going to talk about. As a matter of fact, the Energy Committee, thank you, our senator, dear friend of mine. However, there's nothing in their technology bill. There's nothing that says that they're going to do anything. There is a press conference half an hour ago up in Hartford with the Republicans and their absolute solutions to this. And hopefully those solutions, those actual actions will be included in the Democrats' bill. Don't know if that's going to happen, but we can always hope. But the bills are being drafted right now. The deadline to get anything in as a legislator personally is over. But the committees and, the leadership are putting together things. So we'll see what comes out of it. But as of next month, things will be a lot more concrete as far as the actual wording of bills and things like that. And so I'm happy to work with Sam and make sure that we flag the ones that, we feel that might be particularly egregious to all of us.
Thanks, Irene. We appreciate that. Sam, you want to say something?
No, I'm just starting to download some of these bills so I can read them.
Don't get upset, Sam, please. Okay, any other business for the good of the COG? Our next meeting is Wednesday, February 26th. Does anyone have anything?
Yeah, I think that meeting will be virtual, and we'll be looking for doing an in-person meeting either in March or April in the spring.
Okay, Sam. All right, seeing nothing, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I moved.
Dave, and a second. Carl? Any further discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed. Everybody have a great day. Stay safe. And we will be talking with you in February. Have a great day, everybody. Thank
Everyone
you.
have a great day too. Thank you.
Stay warm.
Much.